Michigan, Congresswoman Haley Stevens and Dr. Abdul El-Sayed faced off on the debate stage last night. It's the first time the Democratic Party candidates have met since State Senator Mallory McMorrow suspended her campaign, and both candidates were quick to attack each other.
Unlike my opponent, I'm not running at the first mic or camera I see. Instead, my head is down doing the work for the people of Michigan who need the work to be done.
We're running to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all. There's a reason that both Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump don't want to see me on the inside of the U.S. Senate, because I'm a threat to politics as usual. If Congresswoman Stevens makes it or Mike Rogers wins, either way, Israel will win. AIPAC is perfectly fine with either of my two opponents because they know that they will have a comfortable, reliable vote in the U.S. Senate.
No one owns my vote and no one owns my policies. Anyone who is contributing to my Senate campaign is doing so because of my proven record of fighting for Michigan.
Now, here's the thing about it. There is no left or right. Most people out there aren't asking, where do I fit on the left-right spectrum? They're asking, can I afford my groceries when I go grocery shopping?
There are many who want to make this run for U.S. Senate about Washington, D.C. insider deals and what's going on with our party leadership. Friends, this is about the future of Michigan. Who is going to be the workhorse?
All right, let's bring in the host of On Brand with Donny Deutsch, and politics reporter at Semaphore, Dave Weigel, who has new reporting on Senator Bernie Sanders ending his silence on the Graham-Plattner controversy coming out of Maine. Yesterday, calling on the embattled candidate to drop out of the Maine Senate race amid new rape allegations. One that Plattner denies. Boy, Dave Weigel, I'll let you go on this. What have you heard more on the Bernie Sanders call for him to step down and other Democrats calling for Plattner to step aside? Should he? And what do you make of the timing of the accusation and the accusation itself?
Well, Sanders led from behind on this. He's answered questions about whether Plattner should quit after a lot of other Democrats did. Sanders was very involved in this race. Plattner's recruitment was part of a strategy that Sanders developed more than a year ago of finding candidates with unconventional backgrounds who were not connected to the mainstream Democratic Party, who he thought were more electable. Plattner was, along with Dan Osborne in Nebraska, an emblem of that. There was a lot riding on this campaign and this idea being successful. So what has been happening among progressives who still have this nomination, Plattner is the nominee unless he decides to drop out by the close of business on July 13th, is to use that leverage to get someone like Plattner in the seat. And it is a very complicated situation because the argument right now is that primary voters, once Janet Mills had dropped out and there was a perennial candidate on the ballot with Plattner, they chose Plattner. Therefore, the party should honor them, choose someone like Plattner to be the nominee. Ro Khanna, a couple other people, not Sanders, but some Plattner endorsers have said, well, Troy Jackson, who ran for governor with the Bernie endorsement, who was on stage with Plattner, he is the next man on deck. He has the same values. There's video of Plattner saying they have the same values. What other Democrats are saying is you're not in a good position to ask for leverage. And also, how does it help our party if a candidate who is in this scenario, quitting the race and leaving politics in disgrace is connected to our nominee? With you saw Maine Democrats yesterday, as after my story ran, the executive director of the party say that Plattner's campaign is holding them over a barrel and trying to, quote, put a finger on a thumb on the scale for how the party replaces him. And this is while the party is trying to come up with a process that they think, in the way that the fantasy of a mini convention 2024 would have replaced Biden, a process that will make Maine Democrats think, all right, we made a mistake, but we had something open and democratic. I mean, candidates I've talked to who want this seat have said we should have debates and town halls over 2 weeks to have this process. Sanders is one of the progressives saying, let's get to that process now. The Plattner campaign is saying, let's hold on until we have more of a guarantee that someone we like is the nominee.
So, Donny, a couple of things just before I get to my question for you. I mean, this was, of course, an accusation not made in the court of law, the police was not called. There's no police report, but there is extensive reporting from credible news organizations on this. It was broken by Politico. any scenario in which Plattner fights back?
You know, it's interesting. You know, sometimes in life there are little tells, there are breadcrumbs, there are little hints of what's to come. A Nazi tattoo is one of them. I mean, people held their nose, they overlooked this, they overlooked the Reddit tweets. Obviously now you have the sexual assault allegations that, to your point, are very credible. They corroborated by the victim's therapist and friend at the time, and there is no scenario where he sticks around. Depends if let's see if the Democrats are smart. They have an opportunity here. He would have been a loser in a general election, I believe, against Susan Collins. But right now they have a chance to put in a winnable candidate, and let's see where it ends up.
Yeah, we will see. Plattner, there's been reporting he may drop out as soon as the next couple of days, but he hasn't yet, and until he does, the Democratic Party and the state of Maine wait. Dave Weigel, back to you. We came into this segment here with some sound from that debate in Michigan last night. Let's turn there. It does neatly encapsulate sort of the debate within the Democratic Party right now about just how progressive do we want to be. You know, how do we want to lean in on certain issues? You know, and again, we talked about this last hour. I mean, Democrats on the whole feeling pretty good about this November, certainly the House, but the Senate increasingly so, considering how underwater Trump and the Republicans are. Take us inside the debate within the party about what sort of candidates it wants to see be on the ticket come November.
Yes, and again, this really started as soon as Kamala Harris conceded defeat, and Bernie Sanders put out a statement saying this is because she didn't listen to the working class. The Democrats didn't do enough for the working class. El Sayed is the most talented. I think a lot of progressives would agree with that. Of these candidates who are running, saying the Democratic Party lost, and it's lost a couple elections in a row because it's lost focus on working class issues, and this is an important part of it now. It's too focused on giving foreign aid and military aid to Israel. All of this is combined in Michigan. It is a good race for explaining that story. This performance from Stevens last night was the strongest a lot of Democrats have ever seen her. She has not run for office as the most talented debater in the room. That was implicit what she was saying. And what has changed in the last in the 18 months is that Stevens, who is a very reliable pro-Israel vote in Congress, is not saying she won't be if she's a senator, is now running where that is a problem. It's not just in Michigan, where there's a big Arab American population, but look at polling from the AP this week. Half of Democrats say Israel committed a genocide in Gaza. She is now running as a candidate promising electability based on her record, but asking Democratic primary voters to overlook that they don't agree with her about Israel. And that has been a big opening for El Sayed. That's been an opening for a lot of Democrats. It was an opening for Democrats in New York City. Just the left of the party has been very well organized since November 2024 in finding wedge issues that make the rest of the party, even candidates who've won elections before, sound like they don't have what it takes to beat Republicans.
You know, Donnie, as Dave has just pointed out, Israel is going to continue to be a huge issue going forward in this fall's elections. Rahm Emanuel is in Israel, where he basically indicted, the president of Israel and called for a re-establishment of a relationship between the United States, a redefinition of the relationship between the United States and Israel. Your thoughts?
You know, it's fascinating how Israel has become such a wedge issue, such an emotional issue for so many voters. You wonder why. Obviously, Israel has its problems, and Netanyahu's got to go. But you just wonder why versus...
Rahm really crushed Netanyahu.
Yeah, he's got to go. But you wonder why there's not the attention on Sudan or Syria or all the other places where innocent people are getting hurt. It's an emotional issue. It goes back to what a lot of these left-wing people, oppressed versus oppressor perception, and it seems to be hitting a nerve, and that's upsetting for me at least.
Yeah. All right. And, you know, Johnny, you mentioned Rahm Emanuel, that speech he's set to deliver in Israel to denounce Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and call for a new approach in the relationship between America and the Jewish state. The potential Democratic presidential candidate is scheduled to speak at Tel Aviv University. And according to the AP, Emanuel will say that the current approach between the two countries cannot stand or survive as it has been, adding, to maintain the strength of our ties, we need significant changes and a new direction.